Hi, welcome to my garden in Kodiak, Alaska. I'm Marion Owen, and I've gardened here for 40 years. And today I want to take you through several areas of my garden to share with you some gardening secrets. Well, not really secrets. These are just lessons I've learned, tips and tricks that you can use in your own garden. So let's get started. One of my biggest challenges this summer was the growing of onions. I really love red onions for salads, for salsa, all kinds of things. But this year, because it was so cool and damp, these onions bolted. In other words, they sent up these just flower stalks. Now, it doesn't mean the bulb isn't edible. Well, let me show you. See, what happens is the flower stalk, giant flower stalk, all the energy goes into forming that flower stalk, which means that the onion itself just turns into this giant green onion sort of thing. And like I said, it doesn't mean it's not edible. I mean, you can eat it, but you can't store it. It doesn't store well, so that means you just have to eat them quickly. Now, I want to show you one of my favorite ways to solve this problem, it turns out. One thing I'll do is I'll chop all the greens off, and then let me show you what the flower stalk looks like. See, it's hollow and it's pretty stiff, and you can put it in soups and stews. Some of these stalks are so big and hollow, you could actually stuff them with cream cheese, I think, and serve them as an appetizer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather up and cut off all of these green leaves and flower stalks, and I'll trim off the tough part on the end, and then I'm going to freeze them in bags. And so over the winter, I'm going to have a whole bunch of ready-to-go green onion slices and chunks and so on, and bits for soups and stews and everything. So all is not lost. While we might have disappointments in the garden, there's always something we can learn, benefit from it, and move on. So I want to share with you a couple things that kind of came to mind after I harvested the potatoes from this bed. For one thing, I want to share my all-time favorite potato. This is called a Magic Molly, and it was developed here in Palmer, Alaska. And the Molly part is because it's named after the developer's daughter. So if you cut through it like this, it has one of the most beautiful purple colors. It just glows purple. It's just stunningly beautiful. So that's the Magic Molly potato. I'll put it over here. So the other thing I wanted to share, while harvesting potatoes is great fun, particularly for kids, it's like a treasure hunt. Well, for kids for all ages. There's a tool that you probably want to avoid using, and that is your classic pitchfork, right? With the sharp tines like this. I can't tell you how many times I've speared potatoes using this kind of fork. It's efficient, but it's not really the best tool to use. Rather, you want to use a classic potato fork, and it's known by different names. And it does not have sharp tines, so they're kind of blunted. Of course, in my opinion, the best tool for harvesting potatoes is your God-given hands, right? And finally, this is something I've adopted, kind of a rule of thumb. Whenever I clear out a raised bed and I'm getting ready to sow another crop, be it seedlings or seeds, and that is after I turn the beds, maybe I've added compost and I want to turn it into that upper layer and let the earthworms come up and then pull it down. But after I turn a bed, I let it rest. Sometimes a few hours, sometimes a day or two. And what that does, it allows the earthworms that I've kind of upended in their lives to burrow down and reestablish themselves. So I kind of let it lie for a while and just kind of and then I'll smooth it out and plant it in a few hours or a couple days. So it's just kind of a heads up tip. Just being a part of your garden's ecosystem and taking into account the creatures that we're all participating or co-creating with, I should say. Kind of a tough lesson I learned this season was I'm pretty good at growing kale and broccoli and Brussels sprouts. These are standard brassica crops that do really well in cool climates. But with our summer and spring being just so wet and damp and cool, they suffered too. So rather than have a continual crop of kale leaves, which are still down here to a smaller extent, all the plants bolted. They went to flower, these beautiful yellow flowers, right? Which are great in salads, I must admit. And I kind of tried to look at the brighter side of it. And I thought, well, I guess I could cut off the flowers, but instead I let them be for the bees. There's all kinds of honeybees in this collection of flowers you see here, in addition to bumblebees. And not just your bumblebee worker bees, like the females that work during the summer, but also the new queens that have just emerged at the end of the summer. They need to eat too. So I've left them for the bees and other pollinators. For me, that feels really great. Now I want to share with you a special feature that I created in this garden. And you'll see, first of all, these steps leading down, and it goes into our banya, which is a sauna, and it's over the ocean. Actually, it's over the water, so it's kind of fun. And I created these stair steps, and these containers, you may have never seen these before. They're kind of cool. These are what are called halibut tubs, and the commercial fishermen use these for fishing for the bottom fish halibut. And they'll coil the line, the long line, inside the tub, and then they put the hooks along the edge like this, and they pay out the line that sits on the bottom of the ocean, and they're baited, and the halibut go for that. Anyway, so I've drilled holes in the bottom, and I use them primarily for these Iceland poppies. And the reason is, Iceland poppies, here it is September, Iceland poppies are the first ones to bloom. There's a honeybee right there, as a matter of fact. Hi, little gal. They're the first flowers to bloom in the spring for us here in Kodiak, Alaska. That's around April. And they're the last to give up the ghost, so to speak, when it gets really cold in October or November. Meanwhile, I have this terraced garden for the Iceland poppies. It's a friendly perennial in that it doesn't become invasive and take over. It provides a lot of nectar and pollen for all the pollinators. It's easy to collect the seeds. So I want to show you, all you need to do is wait for the seed pods to become very brown and dry. What I'll do is I'll just pinch them off, the seed heads like this. I'll just plop them in the bucket. And I'll take care of these, on a rainy day. And I will sow these tiny seeds in soil cubers. I'll provide a link for soil cubers in the description below. My favorite way to start small seeds. Oh, an eagle just went overhead. Very cool. And then I'll start these around, say, February or so. A good 6 to 8 weeks before I'll transplant them outside. So these are Iceland poppies. And if you live next door, I'd give you a handful of seeds. So there you go. A terraced garden for the pollinators, Iceland poppies. They smell so sweet. Hi, plane. Gotta love it. Welcome to my little greenhouse. It poured rain and it blew last night, so I'm a little more bundled up. On today's to-do list, I want to prune away some of these branches from my tomato plants, and that's to allow for better air circulation and sunlight so that these green tomatoes can hopefully keep ripening. Now, one thing that I found is very important to do before I prune a plant, pull a plant, transplant seedlings is to give them notice. That is, give them 24-hour notice to let them know that this is my intention, this is what I'm going to do, and that they're safe, and I'll do my best not to harm them. That way they can draw in the energy, adjust the energy as they see fit in preparation. It's just a courtesy. So back to pruning away the leaves. When I prune leaves like this, of course, now I have an open wound. And that can be a problem because the open wound can cause fungus, or like it can attract fungal diseases and mold. Now, mold spores are everywhere. We can't do anything about that. But we can do something about the spread of fungal diseases and mold. So what I like to do is take regular ground cinnamon, not any fancy brand. The reason is ground cinnamon has been found to have antifungal properties. So I just sprinkle a little cinnamon on the open wounds. I can just dab it like this. So I just sprinkle it like that, and I keep a bottle of cinnamon in my hoop house and my high tunnel and my greenhouse. Give it a try and let me know how it works for you. Like I said, it's not 100% perfect, but it's at least something. So I hope this helps. Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed our time together today. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Meanwhile, if there's just one thing I could leave you with, just one takeaway, and that is, yes, absolutely there's going to be disappointments in the garden. Things just don't work out as we had hoped. But rather than let it, get you pissed off or angry or, make you feel like just totally giving up, don't give in to your ego. And that has to do with everything in life. Disappointments will come. Just say, hey, I tried my best. I'll just try better next time. But don't beat yourself up over it. So relax, enjoy gardening, and until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your hands in the dirt. Cheers.
Okay.
There you go.
Uh-oh.
You doing one pair or two?
She has two.
She has, okay, so get close to the can. Yeah, we have, okay. We've got onion antlers. Yeah, put the shades on. Yeah.
Look like cool reindeer.
Yeah, cool reindeer, onion reindeer.